So this is a trader that in 2017 made $1 million with approximately 300 trades and only being in the market for 4 minutes. This is a very special trader that we're speaking about today that's had the ultimate. He could always be called Hero Part 2 or Hero Version 1. And he truly has this heroic journey of where many a traders could have quit. This is a trader from a small Italian village who literally did a walkabout all the way across to the UK. And this is also a trader that went with 5 years without a losing month, approximately 15 years without a losing year. And he's having his best years as he goes into his 50s. And this is also a trader who just the other day, has just been ticking away, made an almost 100-figure day on Trump Open just the other night. And the most inspiring story for every trader out there who wants to read a book, and specifically this chapter, we call him the Razor, and you'll fill us in why I called him the Razor. So if I hand it over to you of this, these incredible statistics of this trader, who also has a day where he's made in excess of $3.5 million in a day trade. A very special trade that we describe in the book, in his chapter. Of this trade was almost 15 years in the making. The chapter hits this area hard and how he made this money. And he also left probably another $3.5 million on the table on that trade. But it was a trade of stamina. And so who is the Razor and who would want to read the Razor's chapter?
And welcome to chapter 2 of Traders of Our Time. The Razor is all about, Alex, as suggested by his name, a master of the absolute fundamentals. It is especially those who need to have a wake-up call, perhaps a alarm bell, or perhaps seek clarity through needing to go back to basics, but actually to understand what the basics actually are. And he is truly a master of fundamentals. So the Razor is someone, let's say we want to give this, let's say each chapter is a diagnostic. We can diagnose someone with some issue, and the chapter can be then a reflective mirror for them to go deeper. So the Razor, in my opinion, if I had to give it to someone, it would be someone who is in that very deep, messy middle. They are, in fact, something I experienced for a long time as a trader, where it's not necessarily on your first day as a trader. It's not necessarily in your first year as a trader. It's in that sort of 2-3 year period where you're growing in knowledge and your learning is still very accelerated, but just putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, you just build up a mountain and you get lost. That is not to say the mountain is the problem. In fact, you have to be building up all of these spare parts and all of these accumulation of knowledge and so on, because then what comes next is reductive mastery. Or rather, the path to mastery is through a reductive nature. But you can't be reductive from the beginning when you have nothing to work with. So the Razor, again, is this way to cut through the noise and to both understand what is absolutely essential and how so much can be done with so little. And I mean that in many, many ways, which I think people appreciate once they read their chapter. But to take it quite literally, he is someone who has mastered capturing the very next tick. He is someone who has mastered absolutely minimal, as little as possible time exposure in a trade. And as you highlighted, Alex, he has extracted over 7 figures, for example, in 2017, by being roughly 240 seconds in the market for the whole year. That is the definition of someone who has no slack in their trading, who has mastered the entire fundamentals of the game and has pushed that to the limits. He is also someone, and it's interesting how I think we purposely begun the book with his chapter 2, or rather the opening shot of all the traders is the Razor, because we do talk about the nature of absolute performance and reaching the peak through the warrior. But we also want to make it clear to people that the Razor shows alternatives to the end game for people to realize that there is an end game. What does success look like as a trader? Do you want the success as a trader, or what you might imagine success to be? Should there even be an end game in trading? But the Razor is someone who, shall we say, forgoes additional upside for ludicrous, unimaginable consistency. And from his worldview, foregoing that extra 3 million, right or not, depending on who you ask, was in keeping very much within his methods, madness, or clarity, in the sense of he doesn't want time exposure because that introduces all sorts of emotions, and he is a deeply emotional trader. So he is someone who understands himself perfectly and has now burdened himself. He has chosen the correct burdens of his trading. And that's something we talk about in his chapter, Alex, the burdens of a strategy. There's always a cost to trading, and you have to instead select the one you can shoulder better than others.
What we're trying to, throughout the chapters is provide the reader a spectrum, a broad understanding of all the different characters who make it in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all varied, but there are some similarities and common denominators, certain behavioral traits that we bring to life in the book. But the Razor is also this unassuming individual who prides incredibly close relationships. It takes time to cultivate those relationships, but once you are in his inner circle, he is the most giving, most profoundly unselfish individual who provides extreme amounts of his own personal time and truly values friendship with regards to time spent. This is also a trader who has singularly changed most traders' careers. He has been responsible through his process, his approach, and his framework is observation of the market through red, hot-blooded eye-watching of the market. So observation. And through all the observation, you can find patterns. And this is a filtering process. And from all the patterns, what are the strategies that dovetail into your unique biology of how to exploit those patterns? You could have 1,000 observational sample sets. From those 1,000, you have 10 patterns. From those 10 patterns, you probably only have one strategy. And so this is a profoundly simple framework, but powerful, and that's how he's governed his entire trading career. Now, again, I mentioned he has been responsible. There are traders that came onto his floor. He opened up the Poland office, senior head elite trader of the Poland office. And there are junior traders who are able to make multiple six figures in a couple of months, learning directly underneath him. There's also been traders who've moved from other countries to be alongside him and have had seven-figure careers. And so his influence and his ability to communicate his strategy, but the one shining observation is that each one of these traders, if they left his immediate vicinity off a trading floor, felt that maybe I've made enough money, I can do this on my own, I can go, and we explore this throughout the chapters, that those traders who then offloaded themselves from the so-called knowledge matrix of the Poland floor, careers generally went down south. Whereas the traders who remain, it also made you understand that they learned a strategy, not an entire process framework, mental models, and a system of what the Razor had accumulated all of those years. And that's a big thing. You can teach any man to fish with a strategy, or you can provide them a strategy as provide someone with a fish, but he knows how to go in the market and extract edge. He had a roundabout route. Do you just want to explain, this trader from a small Italian village, from a single mother, a bit of his background before we go into his journey into the London prop industry?
He is someone who has suffered the market's demand for your pound of flesh. And what that meant was entering the markets when he was a much more relatively young buck in the internet, the bull market in internet stocks and the bubble and so on and so forth. In
the dot-com days.
The dot-com days in the late 90s, which perhaps is the precursor to the same influx that we have now, with crypto and so on. But it was that generation's sort of first understanding of trading. Long story short, within a single position or trade, he ended up losing his entire account, which was entirely funded by his mother's life savings.
His entire account lost on what was the darling dairy stock or the darling stock Parmalat in Italy.
In Italy at the time, yes.